In today's video, we're going to expand our Claude Code writing system even more. This time, we're going to be introducing custom research agents inside of it, custom Claude agents that can be built on top of your own context inside of your system, use your own skills, reference your own JSON context profiles, your content, etc. So this is a research agent that knows everything about your business, everything about your context, and can tailor the research, on top of that, instead of just some like general deep research tools that you might use elsewhere online. Okay. To get started, we are going to be having our Claude Code starter kit open here. If you haven't watched my masterclass, if you haven't been here before, you can get this exact starting kit to kick off your Claude Code writing system if you want. Here on the left, we have our .claude with agents and skills. We have a context JSON profiles for our business profile, our ICP or ideal client profile, our voice DNA. We have a knowledge folder, and we have our claude.md file. And today, to put this research agent inside of here, we're actually going to be using the Perplexity MCP. So we're going to build an actual Claude agent and then give it access to the Perplexity MCP to run deep research reports, okay? And actually, at the end of this video, you're just going to get the system prompt for my own custom research agent as well for Substack subscribers. So if you haven't, make sure to check that out so you can get the Claude Code system, the research agents, all of that good stuff, okay? So the first thing we need to do here is get the Perplexity MCP server. I'm going to open this up on the right side here. This is the official Perplexity MCP server from Perplexity. I'm going to include this link below. Now, there are a couple ways that we can install this. When you scroll down here, you're going to see that you can just install this plugin here inside of Claude, or you can manually configure this inside of your .json file here, or your claude.json file. MCP file inside of, VS Code or Cursor or whatever, your terminal, wherever you're running Claude Code. I actually prefer option 2, just because I prefer to have an MCP file here on the left where I could see all the MCPs I have connected, but you could choose whichever one you want. Now, since I'm building on this Claude Code starter kit that I've already given my followers here, we have never put an MCP server in here. So we don't have an MCP.json file. So if you're completely new to this, it's actually very easy. You don't have to do anything. If you just come here to Perplexity and you copy this manual configuration and you tell Claude, I'm going to dictate to it right now, install this Perplexity MCP inside the project here. And then I'm just going to paste that exact stuff that I copied from Perplexity's MCP server. It will set it up for us. It will set up the mcp.json file that we don't have here. And then, every other additional MCP server that you add on top later, you can just, tell Claude to stick it in there or put it in manually yourself, whichever works for you, okay? Now, one other thing to mention is that there are 2 ways to install MCP servers. If you're not familiar at all with this, you can install it locally across all of your different Claude projects, or you can just install it here inside of this specific project. I like to do it, inside of each specific project because I like to have different MCP servers for different work, different clients, my own stuff, but if you just, only have one real, thing that you do, if you only make content for yourself or you only write for yourself or one client, then, you could just choose to install it across all of them or in the project, but I like to do it in the project. So as you can see here, now we have Claude telling us that it created an mcp.json with the Perplexity MCP configuration, and it even walks us through here. So if you're not familiar with any of this type of stuff, just tell Claude to walk you through it. It's going to walk you, very simply through it. So here now we have this mcp.json file. Open it up here. You can see that we have the actual Perplexity MCP server here. But in order for this to work, we need a Perplexity API key. As you can see, your key here. So you're going to go to your Perplexity account. I'm going to expand this a little bit here so you can see. You're going to go into your settings and scroll down here to API keys, and you're going to generate an API key, and you're going to copy it. I have this one already made up, and I'm going to delete it after the video. But I'm going to copy this API key I generated here, and you're just going to paste it right in here. All right. I'm going to exit and paste it. Now your API key's in there, and we can save this, okay? So now our Perplexity MCP server is set up, all right, inside of here. But for it to start working, we need to restart. So we need to open up a new one here. And this time I'm actually going to open up a terminal. because inside of Claude Code, if you're using the extension, which you just saw here in VS Code, you can't really access your MCP servers and stuff like that. So it's best to use the terminal. It's another reason why, if you're not comfortable with the terminal yet, start getting comfortable with it, because it just unlocks a lot more things that you can do right inside of there. So now we're gonna launch up Claude here, and we're gonna put /MCP. And now we can see right here our Perplexity server is connected and running. We can enter to view the tools, view tools, and now we can see we have 3 tools for Perplexity. We have search, which is going to give us quick search for simple queries using Perplexity's Sonar model, best for straightforward questions and basic information lookup. We can also do reasoning, which handles complex multi-step tasks using Perplexity's Sonar Reasoning Pro model, best for explanations, comparisons, and problem solving. And then what we really want to check out today is deep research, which conducts in-depth analysis and generates detailed reports using Perplexity's Sonar Deep Research model. This is your multi-page deep research papers that can come out of Perplexity. For anybody who's used like N8N or other, workflow automation or agent platforms like that, one of the problems you might have run into, that I know I always ran into, was that it would always time out when I was trying to do Perplexity deep research reports with, like, for example, a Perplexity node inside of N8N. It would always run out because it takes a long time and there were limits on how long it would let it run. But now you don't have to worry about that at all, because you're running this right here in Claude Code on your computer, your laptop, whatever, and you're not going to run into those problems. So you can generate these really good detailed reports that take some time running in the background, all right? So now we have that Perplexity MCP set up. We could even test it out if we want to, and just say, run a test query to test your Perplexity MCP server. You can run something like that just to make sure, but we already saw it was connected, but we'll see what that, brings back to us. And this is how it works here. It's going to say it's going to run a test query, and then you're going to have to give it permission. It's going to run what is the current weather in New York City today. We're going to give it permission to run it, and you're going to see this is now going to use Perplexity for searching. So, Claude Code already has native web search capabilities, and it's pretty good too inside of Claude Code. But if you ever want to use Perplexity for those more deep research reports, or you just like Perplexity better for up-to-date information, that's how simple it is to install Perplexity into your writing system inside of Claude Code, okay? So we have the Perplexity MCP servers working correctly, successfully returned weather information for New York City. All right, so we know it works. All right, so that's perfect there. The next thing for us to do now, though, is it's great we have Perplexity, but we want an agent now. An agent where whenever we talk to Claude here, whenever we fire up a new chat and we talk to Claude and it recognizes that we need a research task, it can take that and pass it off to the research agent to go handle that task. And that's what we want to happen. So here on the left side of my Claude Code Starter Kit, you could see that I already have one agent in here, which we talked about in previous videos and in my Substack, which is a newsletter agent that handles newsletters. And it uses some of these Claude skills down here, like thought leadership newsletters and stuff like that, to write newsletters. So, for example, if I were to, start with Claude, it can now orchestrate, or it can pass off tasks to either one of these agents that we're going to create now. If it's a newsletter, it'll pass it to the newsletter agent. If it's research, it'll pass it to the research. And that's how it goes, so forth and so on, as you add in more agents. Now, to create a new agent, very simple. For my subscribers, you will come to the paid member vault in Substack here that I provide, where we have a lot of different stuff here. And you're going to be able to find now a research agent, which I'll be linking to. And before I move on with that, a couple of you have asked for like a kind of master document with all these different resources. That will be out here soon on Substack with all the links to all the different resources and assets that you get for your writing system, all right? So I already developed a research agent system prompt here. I'm going to expand. We can look through it really quickly. And then you're just going to go ahead and put that in your own system. Feel free to make your edits. Everything's flexible here. Read it, go through it, make changes, test, iterate, whatever. But this is, the exact one I use in my own writing systems. So we have a research agent that conducts research. Let me wrap the code here so we could read it a little better. So we have a researcher agent that conducts research and analysis filtered through your business context. Use this when the user needs market research, competitive analysis, trend research, or data gathering. We're using the Opus model, and then we have this system prompt here. Now, the difference with my system prompt is it's built specifically for my writing system. So, if you're going to use my system prompt, you need to also be using the other infrastructure and methodologies that I developed here with, for example, context profiles and my Claude.md system prompt, because all of this is connected, all right? So we're going to take this research agent context or system prompt. which basically what it does is when you come up with a research task and you pass it to the research agent is going to specifically look here in your context folder for things like your business profile, context profile, your ICP, your voice DNA, and it's going to understand the context about you to make sure that this research is tailored and personalized and custom to you and your system and your business brand, whatever it is that you're doing, all right? And to put this in there, it's super simple. You're literally going to copy this code right here, which is the actual system prompt. You're going to come here into your agents folder, all right? And we are going to create a new file. Let's name this researcher agent and make sure to put .md so it saves as a markdown file, because that's all Claude Code agents are. They're just markdown files formatted in a specific way here. So you're going to save that. You're going to click enter. All right, and now here you could see we have the empty file for the researcher agent, and we're going to paste what I gave you there. And this is the system prompt, all right? So we're going to save that. All right, and now you can see here we have the researcher agent fired up, loaded up, ready to go. Now, once again, you need to restart your Claude Code to give it access to this. So we're going to open up a new terminal here. We'll restart Claude Code. We'll fire up Claude. And what you can do here is you can do /agents just to confirm that everything's set right. You didn't put anything wrong. And now you can see we have the researcher agent right here. So it's fired up, it's loaded, everything worked out correctly. We can view it, we can edit it, delete it, etc. Right? All right. So our agent is fired up, it's ready to go. So now we're going to test it out by running a query. So there are a couple really creative things you can do now. So now that your custom, Claude Code writing system has access to a research agent and powerful deep research tools through the Perplexity MCP, you can generate highly, personalized and custom research reports, deep research queries, and stuff like that built right on top of your context. So the more stuff you have here, inside of your system, the better it's going to be. So this Claude Code starting kit is a little bit bare right now, right? We have 2 agents, we have some skills, there's nothing loaded. There are 3 context profiles loaded here, which are my personal ones that I copied and put here, which you don't have. You're going to have to, of course, put your own in there. And then we have knowledge, which I don't have here. But in my real system that I use in my day-to-day work, I have all my Substack newsletters, my YouTube transcripts, more context profiles, so much context that this research agent can use when, compiling any type of reports or anything like that, any insights. Now, my profiles in here, you could see we have like a business profile, which talks about all of my business, what I do, the pricing, for my products. I have my ICP, my ideal client profile, who it is that my audience is. So that's really, important to have in there. At the very least, you should have these context profiles because it's the basis of your agent and your, entire system here, really, right? All right, so now here's what we're going to run here. We're going to take this prompt just as an example. And what I want it to do is I'm going to tell it, I want to validate my niche. Use your research agent to determine whether there's real demand for what I do, who else is doing it, and what people are willing to pay. Run a deep research report. We're going to run that, and it should fire up its research agent to then use Perplexity for that report. And in doing so, it's going to study my business profiles and ICPs and stuff like this to know what my business is and the context around my business. Couple errors here reading files, but it's going to fix itself out and search it. But we're going to let that run here. Now, an important thing to note is you really shouldn't have to, call out like I did here in the prompt to use your research agent. Because, in the perfect world, Anthropic says that Claude Code autonomously invokes its agents and its skills. But I do find that not to be the case sometimes, especially when you're dealing with something like an MCP tool, such as Perplexity. So you might tell it, if I were to tell it just to, run a deep research report, and I never mentioned using the research agent, it is very likely to just bypass the research agent and just run the report, which sometimes works perfectly fine. But if you actually want to, ensure that it runs through the agent, sometimes you need to call it out. Here's the deep research. You can see it is going to hand it off. It handed it off to the researcher agent for a deep niche validation report. This is the researcher agent running here, and it's calling on the Perplexity deep research tool, putting out this big query, and we're going to let that one run. So now that's going to run and fill out an entire report. I'm going to open up another terminal here and then run just like a just another example here, which is content gap analysis. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of what you can do. We're going to tell it now, like, look at my ICP profile and run a gap analysis. What content is missing out there for this audience? What pain points aren't being addressed? What questions are they asking that no one is answering well? And once again, I'm going to tell it, fire up a research agent to carry out this task. And we're going to run that one. So now you have multiple research agents, fire it up, running different things. You can use this for anything, right? Depending on what it is you do. So we're going to see that this is running, and we're going to now start this one. It's going to read our ICP profile, then hand it off to the agent with the right context. That's going to take a couple minutes, but that's what's cool. You can run all these parallel instances here. You can go work on something else, come back to that later, whatever. Go have a coffee, keep working, whatever it is you want to do. I'm going to pause it here, let this run for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and see what the final output looks like and what you can do with that. All right, so my first research agent just finished its task, which was the first report on determining whether there's real demand for what I do, who else is doing it, what people are willing to pay. And this is what you're going to see here. It's going to come back. It's just going to be Claude telling you like a little summary of what it did. You're going to use validator with strong demand signals. Here's the research I found, blah, 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 blah. But this is not what's cool. What's really cool now is what we're going to do is compile this into an actual PDF report with Claude's like executive summary or agent's executive summary on top of it, since our, Claude knows so much about our context. So I'm going to use voice dictation here, and I'm going to tell it like, let's see here. I'm going to say, all right, I want you to create a PDF, research report with the full original report. But before that, I want your page of executive summary from the agent, specifically regarding my context and our system here, and then continue with the original report. Something like that. We're just going to tell it that. Maybe a little less wordy next time, but we're going to tell it that. And now it's going to do something really cool here, right? So you're going to see right here, it's going to say use skill, document skills. Claude may use instructions code or files from this skill. So this is a Claude skill that's going to allow it to create really nice PDFs and documents. And if you don't have that skill already, I'm going to link here to another video, which I did, that tells you or shows you how to install Claude's official library of Claude skills. And in that is these document skills. So if you don't have that, make sure to install that as well. So you could start to see how all of this is connected. It's insane. It really is insane how all of this is connected. And this time around, you can see it invoked it itself. I didn't even say it. Actually, funny, the first time this happened when I was testing it out earlier today, I totally even forgot about that, document skill. So it invoked it itself, and I was like, oh, I couldn't even remember about that. So it's going to use the document skill here, and we're going to give it, permission here, and it's going to fire up that skill to create this really nice PDF with the original research report, but also our custom agent's executive summary on top of it. All right. So as you can see, I'll create a professional PDF report with an executive summary tailored to your business context, followed by the full report. We're going to let that do it. We're going to come over here, and this is still running, so that's going to take a minute. So we'll jump back here when that's done. All right, so after a minute or two, it ran here. You could see it used its PDF document skills to create a professional PDF report. All right, and then what you're going to get here is give it permission to actually generate the PDF research report. We're going to let that run, and then it'll open up the report. And then over here, our second agent just got done as well. Let's first let this finish up here. We're going to keep giving it permission to finish this up. And there you have it. It finished it up here. We have the PDF report created successfully, and it went ahead and stuck it inside of my knowledge folder here. So we have that stored over there. Before we take a look at it, let's look at our second agent, which was running our second query, if you remember, on looking at my ICP and running a gap analysis of what content is missing there for my audience. And you can see we got the summary here. It determines 7 gaps that is missing for, my ICP out there. For example, let's see, this market has a barbell problem. Education exists for beginners, like basic ChatGPT tutorials, and engineers, like courses, but the middle ground for professional content operators is almost entirely vacant. You're positioned to own this space. We have the 7 gaps. Context engineering has no teacher. Voice preservation remains unsolved. No anti-slop governance framework. Career transition anxiety is unaddressed. Agentic workflows are underdocumented. No newsletter owns writing operations. And the empty middle in AI education. So these are all great things that are going to work for me. Now, I'm not going to run the same thing here, but what I would do is tell this the same thing we told the first agent, which was to go ahead and put this in a PDF research report with an executive summary on top. And I'm going to store all these in my knowledge here for good reference and for, just even richer context inside my system going forward next time I talk to Claude, right? So let's get rid of that for now. Let's go back to our first PDF report. You're going to see here now in knowledge, we're going to have, I guess, let's say in notes here, we have this niche validation report. We're going to open it right here inside of VS Code. And this is the report that Claude put together. We have a niche validation report for AI writer ops, market demand analysis, competitive landscape, pricing validation, prepared for Alex McFarland. We have the executive summary from my agent here, which says, let's see, you are Alex McFarland, founder of AI Writer Ops, teaching professionals to build AI writing systems. All right. Your target audience consists of content strategists, marketing leaders, consultants, agency owners, and solopreneurs who are frustrated with generic AI output that sounds like everyone else's. We have the verdict, which is strong market validation. Your niche is validated with compelling demand signals. All right. We got the research reveals a significant gap between AI tool adoption and comprehensive training. And then we have this 51 percentage point gap represents my addressable market. My positioning around context engineering, voice DNA preservation, and reusable systems addresses documented market pain points. Then we have these metrics here. We got the market size, demand gaps, competition, my competitive advantage, which is context engineering versus prompt engineering, which is why we're blowing up here in our community on Substack, on YouTube. We're blowing up all over the place because of these things: context engineering versus prompt engineering, voice DNA, systems over one-off. So, I ran this almost like validating what I already knew was validated, which kind of helps us see the accuracy here, right? We have strategic recommendations as well. And then we have the full research report from Perplexity. All right, that's going to go in and we're going to see all these pricing validations. And even taking a look at my own pricing, some of this is outdated, but we have my newsletter, competitive. We have my training program, 1,297, comparing it to other ones. We have custom builds, 2,500 to 5,000. It even says that it may be underpriced. We have strategic partnerships, assessments, and stuff like that. So you could just see it's like a mountain, like it's a gold mine of insights and information. This is how you run deep research reports with these custom agents inside of your system with your own context. So make sure to check that out. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to this YouTube, where we're going to keep covering this stuff going forward, keep expanding our systems, all these new agents, MCP tools, everything coming out of Claude Code. We're going to keep, pushing that forward. And join my Substack if you want access to all of these different assets and tools, so that you could copy them right into your own system, like this Claude Code starting kit, and, these agents, these skills, all of it is available on my Substack. So make sure to check that out. And then lastly, just to mention, a lot of you are asking about when the co-writer system is coming out, which is my training program, but not, I don't even like to call it a training program, because it's like a training program of teaching you how to do all this, how to use it all, but also it's an entire library here of like everything I use. It's like an entire system library of agents and skills and video walkthroughs and community and stuff like that. That is opening very soon, so keep checking back on that. I'm actually working on building an entire platform for it, all sorts of cool stuff that I'm going to show you guys that I'm building with Claude Code for my community. So keep in touch, keep following along for that, and go set up your writing system if you haven't already.